Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp., RMO, on the TSX Venture Exchange. Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp. is a Canadian-based mineral exploration project generator. The company currently holds multiple property interests in Ontario with joint venture partners and is seeking further joint venture partners for other drill-ready properties in our portfolio. For more information, please visit our website at rmroyalty.com or call me at 604-922-2030.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Stewart Muir, Executive Director of the Resource Works Society. Welcome back to the show, Stewart.
Thank you, Jim.
So many critics of the Trans Mountain Pipeline, which received federal cabinet approval once again, are saying there's no economic case for it. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, whenever I hear that, and there are some well-known public figures who are going about saying that, I'm just puzzled because nothing supports that. I'll tell you, if you talk to bankers, pension fund managers, economists, lawyers, anyone involved in making the decisions to borrow the money, invest the money, to do a project like this, to put pipelines on rails. Right now I'm seeing all these pictures people are putting on Twitter of rail cars carrying pipes, we presume for Trans Mountain to be built through the west of Canada into BC through Kamloops today. This is real money. It's happening. If you don't believe those people know what they're talking about, okay, fine. Here's something else. How about looking at the actual evidence of what we've done in the past with shipping heavy oil or bitumen dilbit to Asia from Vancouver last year? The research I've been looking at, this is data from Statistics Canada, paid for everybody who's listening, unless you're visiting from another country, in which case, welcome. You saw that there was more than $500 million, $550 million worth of Canadian crude oil, bitumen oil, shipped from Vancouver to China, to South Korea, some to Hong Kong, a little teensy bit, a thimble or two to Thailand. So, at least 4 countries are directly receiving this. It actually happened. The stats are captured. It's there in the national database. Anyone can go and look. It's on my Twitter feed if you want to see it, there at SJ Muir. The federal government, hey, they're advised by their own bureaucracy. And whatever you may think about bureaucrats, I can tell you I've met many federal bureaucrats in my time. These are highly educated people. They come out of the top of their class to be recruited into the civil service. These are smart people. They know that exports are a thing and a future thing for Canada. So when you have some rather fringe extremist loony professor from Victoria going on national TV, like we have with Andrew Weaver, my MLA, saying these ridiculous things about there being no market for this, it just flies in the face of all knowledge and reason and facts that we have. So you've got to take that stuff, not a grain of salt. Just go and get a salt shed of winter salt and pour that on it, because that's what it deserves, an enormous dump of salt.
Now that we have tentative approval, we still have court actions pending. What's the cost been to taxpayers and business because of that?
Well, it's hard to say for sure. There's so many of these. For example, Burnaby, I think if you look at the city of Burnaby, I've seen a careful estimate suggesting that the taxpayers of Burnaby have paid $2 million. So that's $2 million of not playgrounds, of not pothole filling, of not sewage upgrades that has been basically wasted on legal fees. That's the only people who've come out ahead in this are the lawyers. Provincially, you look at the court actions they've been part of it, it's very hard to know. But if you look at the number of lawyers whose names and firms are on some of those legal documents that they file, whoa, there's a lot of them. How many lawyers do they need? How many more condos do those lawyers need in Whistler that they're all over this thing? It's got to be millions, right? So then there's all the sort of mystery money. You've got these organizations that operate, they claim to be just doing good work for the environment, but it costs a ton of money. They've got all these lawyers on their staff. Who's paying them? Well, we don't really know. They say, they get it from donations from Canadians, but they they have millions of dollars worth of activity. It's very hard to fundraise like that from microscopic amounts from ordinary people. They probably raise some like that, but they're getting, in all likelihood, and they disclose this sometimes. They don't like to talk about it, but they get big chunks of money from foreign foundations and so on. And I know that some people are irate about that. Other people say it's fine. And let there be debate on that. But the money's got to come from somewhere. And wouldn't it be nice if it could be spent on, getting people off drugs, getting children through school, university, college, trades, training spaces? Wouldn't that be a nice world to live in where we could, have a little more agreement on what's a real priority worth doing? But right now it's all these distractions. But I'll tell you, the Trans Mountain case, probably 16 legal challenges to it in a row. In all cases, it turned out that the work had been done carefully by the regulators and the companies. There wasn't a challenge recognized by the courts. They got to, I think, number 17, and the court said, whoa, wait a minute, I got a little more work to do here. And that's what's just happened, resulting, after it being fixed, in this latest reapproval by federal cabinet. So let's look at the scorecard. It's 16-1. If you're a betting person, and you want to say, well, what's going to be the outcome of this game? Right now the score is 16-1. Where would you put your money? I think a rational bettor would put it on the one who's got the 16 points on the board, frankly. So even if there's more challenges, and the courts are great. That's a foundation of our democracy, that we can go and challenge. It makes our laws better and stronger when we find flaws and go and fix them. I'm all for it. But at a certain point, is it 20? Is it 30-1? Is it 100, 1,000? Like, how many court cases do we need before we know that things have been done properly?
What about the cities of Vancouver and Victoria threatening to sue the oil companies for climate change? Don't you have to prove damages? And if it's so bad, when is Vancouver and Victoria going to stop powering their municipal vehicles, fire trucks, and police cars with fossil fuels?
Yeah, I don't think they have any intention of doing that for emergency services. In fact, I know in the federal climate plan, it's specifically exempted that emergency services will be affected by these policies, and that's under the current government that they made that exemption. So, there's kind of a nudge, wink, wink here. We're going to make this stand. I think on the climate litigation, that is a policy. You're even seeing progressive mayors, like Lisa Helps of Victoria has, after initially supporting the climate litigation, she actually at the regional level pulled it back and totally changed her position and said, you know what? I've thought about this. This is actually a terrible idea because we're pitting citizen against citizen. The very people, the energy companies who have the technology, the know-how, and, hey, the skin in the game, because they want to stay in business, right, providing energy. A lot of them don't care what kind of energy it is. They want to be energy companies now and in the future, whatever it takes. So why not work with them? We've heard that from, I think, the mayor of Squamish, who is also seen as a real, green, a little more progressive force. These are not, I don't know what anyone's impressions are, but, these are not the mayors who might be, more aligned with the non-progressive or the conservative views. These are not those mayors, although those mayors have a point of view too. And I think the other thing is that there's a degree of skepticism. So, you look at big tobacco, and that's the example that the climate litigation people use. They say, here's this terrible, harmful substance, tobacco, where there was a $15 billion lawsuit victory by the anti-big tobacco lobby years back. That was, I think, in Quebec. And all these years later, if you look around Canada, every province, 10 provinces were part of these lawsuits. 10 provinces paid legal fees for years and years. I don't know what it added up to, but it had to be a lot of money. And you say in 2019, how much money has gone from big tobacco to settle these lawsuits? Not one penny. So, has it made a difference for public health outcomes? Not directly, although, smoking has declined somewhat, but you also see other forms of tobacco use through vaping. There's lots of views on the benefits or non-benefits of vaping, but it is something that has certain advantages over smoking. And that's an innovation that's happened because of industry pushing it. When it comes to climate, I think that the potential for municipalities, where so much of our fuels are consumed, to be the leaders in evolving. There was an interesting story from the Wall Street Journal this week. It's behind the paywall, but there's this inventor who's come up with a new engine that is a gasoline engine. It's probably going to be used in future cars. Maybe it'll be a mixed electric and gasoline car. I think that a lot of people are saying that's more likely to be the future of automobiles, that it won't be this 100% electric vehicles on the road. That's very unlikely. Maybe it's 40% by 2050, and that will be a good outcome, but you've still got all these other gasoline vehicles because we still need ambulances, certain kinds of vehicles. Right now it's an unknown. No one can really predict where it's headed, but often in life it's the things that you have now that are proven that are the things you can adapt in future that are success, rather than these sort of speculative things that you don't even know will work. Electric cars work. I love them, but will they be 100% of cars? Well, we'll see. And just back to climate litigation, I think the concerns that councillors have is that it could be an unknown. And even the proponents, West Coast Environmental Law, I see that they're now admitting, they weren't admitting this before, but they're now admitting that it could be very expensive. They want to get provinces on the hook. So the idea is they're going to municipalities. They're saying you got to write to these 20 fossil fuel companies around the world, the National Oil Company of Iran, and you have to demand some money for them to pay for what you're claiming is the damage from climate change that you say they caused. And then they're going to send you a check and you'll build your new whatever. Well, no one think that is going to happen. It's preposterous. Why would they do that? And we've seen already some of the companies. Total of France wrote a letter recently to a municipality in Greater Victoria that had written one of these, I guess I'd call it a shakedown letter to them. It was very polite and respectful to the mayor and council, but they pointed to the innovation, the gains they've made. They're actually succeeding in lowering their environmental footprint and embracing climate policies, carbon policies. It's going in the right direction. So the idea that you don't have to bring in this very aggressive litigation strategy is not finding favor with even the progressive mayors. So that tells you something.
We'll have more with Stewart Muir right after the break.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Grand Portage Resources' Herbert Gold Project in southeast Alaska highlights increased gold resource, indicated and inferred, of 860,000 ounces, in excess of 10 grams per ton gold. Expansion drilling is planned on the Herbert Gold property for the summer of 2019. Grand Portage Resources trading symbols are GPG on the TSX Venture, GPTRF on the OTCQB, and GPB on Frankfurt. For more information, please visit our website, grandportage.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Stewart Muir. Stewart, there's a premise that resource and manufacturing companies are no longer welcome in Canada. What's the basis for that?
Yeah, well, I think, this is something I hear from people. I think there's an impression out there. I'm not necessarily saying that's how it's going, but there's legislation, there's moves in government to just continually constrain the operating capacity of resource companies. Now, I know there's some good news stories, and I hope we're going to talk about the new gold mine being approved, which is fantastic news. But there is this general trend that the future vision for Canada does not include the things that create its prosperity today. It's manufacturing and resource sectors. That there are those people, especially policy wonks who are influential in government and fashion the legislation. We're just thinking, what? We don't want to have that part of the economy because it's unsightly. You have to put on yellow vests. We don't like yellow vests. You have to put on these uncomfortable boots. We don't like that. We don't like that you have to drive around in vehicles that burn fuel. We don't like that. You have to disturb the landscape here and there, and we don't like that. So let's not have any of it. That's sort of the drift that we're feeling out there. And I think government should wake up to this and let us know if that's what is going on, because right now a lot of people think it's what's going on. And, here's a little piece of evidence. You look back 2015 to 2018. I tweeted this, again, the S.J. Muir. I tweeted a couple of charts from Stats Canada, because I like to go to the most authoritative source for facts, because you like to be talking about facts. And I found a couple of interesting trends. So over those years, 2015 to 2018, we saw a decline in employment in the mining and oil and gas sector of 12.9%. It was quite a fall. On the other end of it, you saw an increase in employment in the public sector. So all the civil servants who do all those important jobs for us, they grew by 9.2% over those 4 years. So 13% decline. And here's the really interesting contrast point, is that those two sectors have the highest hourly wages in Canada. Civil servants and mining, oil and gas. And one's growing, one's shrinking. Now, I don't think it's going to be hard to figure out which of those is the one that creates the base wealth, because it creates export commodities that are very valuable, be that crude oil or gold, all the other things that we develop through mining and oil and gas. Whereas public sector, as important as those jobs are, they aren't ones that create the GDP through exports in the same way. So you've got this paradox. I mean, imagine if it was maybe flipped around, if we had growth of nearly 13% in the primary industries, and we had maybe not as much growth or just, a more steady status for the public sector. Which would be the more economically beneficial arrangement, I ask? I think Jim, I think I know where you would land on that.
Well, I'm in favor of jobs that produce things, not consume things.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would share that view. So there is a feeling that we've got this long-term thing going on here where we're going to see more of the same. We've had new legislation that I think the government has rushed through, Bill C-69. I've said that I think a lot of Canadian industry wants some of those changes, but I've also said that the opportunity they had to lessen the impact of the things, the parts of that new law, Bill C-69, that will prevent there being another pipeline ever built. A lot of people knowledgeable in this area believe that. I've talked to many of them. So we've got that direction. We've got Bill C-48, which we've talked about before. The tanker ban, which has a lot of people very upset. I think there's going to be constitutional challenges. And now we've created Alberta to be this very angry, resentful place. I worked a few decades back when I was a little younger, a little more on top in those days. And Alberta had its kind of orderliness. I worked out there. And then it sort of passed. They found new things to be happy about. But now it's back to where it was, but 10 times worse. I've been to Alberta a few times over the spring, and wow, people are so irate out there. And they maybe had a chance to vent through the provincial election and send a message. But I've been there since then, since the Jason Kenney government came in, and guess what? People are still really angry about what they felt. And, those stats we were talking about, the 13% decline in mining and oil and gas growth, in no region of Canada has it been felt in everyday life more than it has in Alberta. So they haven't forgotten. And how do you create a better outcome there is a challenge for people in industry and government.
We'll have more with Stewart Muir right after this.
Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Magnum Gold Corp, MGI and the TSX Venture Exchange. A 2015 drill program on the LH property intersected several high-grade gold intersections, including 11 meters of 20.66 grams per ton gold. Additional drill targets on the LH property have been identified by a 2018 drone airborne magnetic survey to further evaluate a pyrrhotite-enriched gold-bearing system. Please visit our website at magnumgoldcorp.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're chatting with Stewart Muir. Stewart, something almost as rare as teeth in chickens. A new mining project's been approved in BC. Can you tell us about it?
Well, yeah, that's the New Gold mine. It's up near Vanderhoof. It is a gold and silver mine, open pit, 44 square kilometers. It's going to be around for 17 years, although if it's like the Gibraltar mine, maybe it'll be around for 60 years because, you know, when you get a really good ore body, they often find that the vein runs in different directions, and as time goes on, they have better, you know, mapping of what's underground. So at least 17 years, they'll bring prosperity to that part of BC up in the central interior, and it's going to cost them $1.3 billion to build. So that's a huge number of jobs in construction will be going up there. And then, of course, over the operational life, they'll have 400 good jobs. And as we were talking about earlier, these are the highest paying industrial jobs in Canada in the field of mining. Also, mining is the industry that has the highest employment of Indigenous Canadians. So, I was out through Vanderhoof last year. It's my most recent visit through Vanderhoof. There's lots of people up there who've been feeling the pain of what the forestry industry has been going through. They've had a really tough year for a whole bunch of reasons. And I think the arrival of a new mine decision is a really smart move by the provincial regulator who granted this. We've heard previously from the Horgan government that they look favorably upon mining, and I think it was good for them to have a chance to prove that indeed they are a government that on its watch is able to say yes to a mine. So I think that is just such great news for New Gold and lots of other people.
With this, too, I know people hate open-pit mines, saying they're an eyesore, an environmental disaster. Are they really? Because afterwards, the company has to restore the land, and I saw one place in Alberta that it used to be an open-pit mine. Now it's a provincial park with a very nice lake.
Well, yeah, I mean, the scale of this, like from the point of view of a mining landscape engineer, they see a 50-year, 20, 30-year picture of landscape effects, because what they're doing, this is open pit, so they're really just digging a hole. It's not simple. It gets incredibly complicated, but they're digging a hole. So they're going to have to put dirt somewhere, and then they're going to be putting some dirt probably back in the hole. I don't know the details of this mine at all, but let's figure they're going to be doing that in some form. So you have to plan that out over the years. You've got to make sure that it's not blowing dust all over the place in a way that certainly affects people, and just in principle, of course, you don't want that happening. And then you have this opportunity to even, this sounds hubristic, but to even improve on what was there before. You could improve the drainages, and water courses could be managed in such a way that when it's fully restored at the end of mine life, which they're legally obliged to do, that you have created an optimized landscape that looks as natural as it was before there was a mine. And I think the people who do this professionally, and I've talked to them, they take enormous pride. I met the person at, actually it was New Gold's mine. I think they've got a mine outside of Kamloops, that I got a tour of it. It's not open pit. I think they dig from underground up through it, but some of the same things happen. And, the guy was telling us, we were looking at this landscape. It looked kind of industrial. It was obviously a mine. And he had this vision in his head of how beautiful it's going to look after it's all done there. So, you try to put yourself in the position of someone like that, and that's how they approach the world. They're seeing this evolving landscape. And anyone who's seen pictures, you can find them online, the before and after of mining in Canada, where it's done so well. You can appreciate that this is a beneficial industry, and it's a really small footprint. I think that mine is probably, if you take, say, Mount Poly mine and Gibraltar mine, which are up in that region, west of Williams Lake, and you compare them, say, to some feature of the landscape in Greater Vancouver that everyone knows. Let's take Burns Bog. Those two mines would probably be about a fit for Burns Bog, maybe a little bit bigger. And this one here sounds like it would be, it would fit in Burns Bog, I'm sure, no problem.
Yeah, it's about a 5-minute drive to get around Burns Bog, so it's not all that big. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Stewart, anything else you wanted to add to today's show?
Well, I think it's getting to summer. People are going to get out there. I would just say be super careful if you are smoking and thinking about throwing a cigarette butt out the window. We saw up near Squamish this week. Usually when you get a fire like that, it's a human cause. Most of the wildfires, I know climate change is a big factor, but the spark moment when the dryness becomes, an issue is when someone introduces something that will light that material. So that could be a campfire you left behind, could be that cigarette butt, could be, there was a fire in California. It was caused by this guy. He took believe it, just a weird thing to do, but he got a big iron spike. He wanted to drive it into a snake nest with a sledgehammer because he hated those snakes. It sounds like a weird thing to do, but it's what he did. And all of these little iron flakes, when the sledgehammer hit the stake, they sort of split off and they were super hot heated, and they ignited the land around there. So just something like that, even though it's a dumb thing to do, but how, harmful to the snakes, but how would that cause a wildfire? It did. It caused this epic, horrible wildfire. So just be careful out there. It's in some parts of the province looking to be a dry summer, so.
Yes, a forest fire just about hit my parents' farm in Peace River. It was caused by a broken beer bottle. The bottom of the bottle acted as a magnifying glass.
Oh boy.
So another human-caused fire that you wouldn't suspect.
Exactly.
Stewart, have a great Canada Day.
Thank you very much. Same to you.
My guest has been Stewart Muir, Executive Director of the Resource Works Society. If you have any questions for Stewart, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. His Twitter handle @SJMuir. His website, resourceworks.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.